There's someone in your life pulling strings you can't even see, and if you don't learn how to cut them, you'll keep living in their story, not yours. We all know at least one of those people, the ones who twist conversations, guilt trip, and quietly bend everyone around them to their will. They make you feel like you're the problem. Worst of all, they're damn good at it. They can cry on command. They can turn your kindness into obligation. They can control the entire room without ever raising their voice. If you've ever felt drained, trapped, like you're caught in someone else's web, this video is for you. We're going to walk through 12 Stoic tactics to deal with manipulators so you can protect your peace, stand your ground, and stay calm in the middle of emotional warfare. But before we dive in, let me make you a deal. If you hit like and subscribe now, but later feel I didn't over-deliver on the quality of my information, just unsubscribe. That's on me. My job is to earn your support with every single video. All right, let's begin. Number 1. Understand their mind. Before you can defend yourself, you need to understand what drives them. A manipulator isn't confident. They're not powerful. They're not in control. They're afraid. Afraid of rejection. Afraid of being irrelevant. Afraid they'll never be enough unless they're pulling the strings. They don't play these games because they're strong. They play them because it's the only way they know how to feel control. And while the behavior is toxic, the root of it is fear. And no, that doesn't excuse it, but it does explain why it keeps happening, especially if you're someone naturally empathetic, trusting, or kind. Marcus Aurelius put it this way: whenever you are about to find fault with someone, ask yourself the following question: what fault of mine most resembles the one I am about to criticize? That doesn't mean you're manipulative. It means the more you understand the game, the less likely you are to fall for it. Here's the Stoic truth. Manipulators don't control you unless you believe they can. So stop personalizing their behavior. It's not because you're weak. It's because they sense you're strong and they want access to that strength without earning it. That's why the first tactic isn't a technique. It's a mindset shift. From, why are they doing this to me? To, what fear is this person trying to avoid by controlling me? See that? And you stop reacting. You start observing. And only then do their motives become clear. Number 2. Understand their methods. Most manipulators don't scream, they don't shout, they don't even tell you what they want. They imply, they confuse, they wait for you to fill in the blanks. They plant the seed, and if you're not careful, you'll water it yourself. If you want to protect your peace, you need to spot the 3 most common methods of manipulation. Not in theory, but in real life where it stings. Because manipulation is like smoke. You don't always see the fire, but you always feel the burn. Method 1. Guilt tripping. It sounds like, after everything I've done for you, wow, I guess I just don't matter. I didn't expect you to treat me like this. It's not an attack, it's a hook, a silent demand that you abandon your boundaries to soothe their discomfort. But guilt only works on the empathetic. If you're naturally kind, understanding, emotionally available, you're their favorite target. They know you'll doubt yourself. They know you'll question your tone. They know you'll wonder if maybe you went too far. But Stoicism teaches us, no man is hurt but by himself. Diogenes. That includes guilt. If it isn't rooted in your values, it's not yours to carry. If it doesn't align with your conscience, it's not your burden. If it feels like you're being forced to earn back your dignity, that's not accountability, that's control. Method 2. Gaslighting. You remember what they said, you know how it made you feel, but somehow they twist it. I never said that. You're being dramatic. You're remembering it wrong. Suddenly, you're second-guessing your memory, wondering if you are too sensitive, even apologizing for simply noticing what happened. This is psychological warfare, and the goal isn't to win the argument, it's to erase your confidence in yourself. Gaslighting thrives in isolation. If they can make you doubt your own perception, they don't just control the story, they control you. But the Stoics never outsourced reality. They trusted reason, judgment, and principle above all else. Marcus Aurelius said, "If someone can prove me wrong and show me my mistake, I will gladly change. But prove it, don't dismiss it. So next time it happens, don't beg to be believed." You don't need permission to trust your memory. Silence their story by standing firmly in your own. Method 3. Emotional blackmail. This is when affection becomes a transaction and love turns into a weapon. Phrases like, "If you loved me, you would," or "Fine, I just won't talk to you then." "Do what you want, just don't expect me to be there." They act hurt because it works. They make you feel cold for setting boundaries, and soon you're bending over backwards to make it right, even though you did nothing wrong. This isn't love, it's leverage. Here's the Stoic filter. Is this person offering love or renting it out with conditions? Because real love, Stoic love, respects freedom. It doesn't demand obedience. It doesn't withhold affection as ransom. It disagrees without domination. It stays even when you say no. If you recognized even one of these tactics, good. Your eyes are opening. Be proud of that. And if you spotted all three, you probably needed this video more than you realized when you clicked. If you had to pick the manipulation tactic that stings the hardest, which would it be? Comment it below. Consider this your first Stoic exercise, calling the game out loud instead of letting it stay in the shadows. But either way, keep watching, because the next few tactics will show you how to respond with calm clarity and disarm their entire game plan. Number 3. The dichotomy of control. When you're caught in manipulation, everything feels urgent. You want to fix it. You want to defend yourself. You want to make them see. But the harder you wrestle for clarity, the more tangled it becomes. That's not an accident. That's the design. Manipulation doesn't just distort the facts. It distorts your focus. Suddenly, you're reacting to their story instead of standing firm in your own. And the deeper you go, the more off balance you become, confused, frustrated, ashamed, exhausted. That's how manipulation wins, by dragging you into a battle you were never meant to fight. But the Stoics had a counter-move, a principle so sharp it cuts through the fog like a blade. Epictetus said, "Some things are in our control, some things are not." This isn't just a quote. It's a scalpel. It slices through emotional chaos with surgical precision. You don't control what they say. You don't control how they spin your silence. You don't control their moods, tones, or tactics. But here's what you do control: your presence, your breath, your tone, your timing, your response, or your refusal to respond. Most of all, you control whether you walk into the trap or watch it quietly from the outside. Here's the hard Stoic truth. They can bait you, but you choose whether to bite. So when they twist your words, poke at your kindness, or spin another story, ask yourself, is this in my control? If it's not, don't pick it up. Don't chase it. Don't carry what was never yours to hold. Because the moment you take the bait, you hand them the leash. And Stoicism is about the opposite, dropping the leash and choosing clarity over chaos. As Proverbs put it, echoing Stoic wisdom. Don't argue with fools, for you will become a fool yourself. Let them speak. Let them spiral. Let them interpret your calm however they need to. What you ignore has no power. What you detach from cannot define you, so let them throw their guilt. Let them cast their shadows. Let them twist your stillness into something it's not, because your calm, your clarity, your peace, that belongs to you. And no one, not even the most skilled manipulator, gets to take it without your permission. Number 4, use strategic silence. Manipulators don't want truth. They want leverage. They don't want dialogue. They want dominance. That's why they poke, they prod, they jab, and then shrug. Relax, I was just joking. They interrupt mid-thought, then accuse you of never listening. They corner you with guilt. And when you try to explain, they twist your words before they even leave your mouth. Because that's the game. Provoke you into reaction. Once you're defending, they've already won. But silence? Silence is different. Silence is power. The Stoics didn't see silence as passivity, but as precision. Not fear, strength. Zeno said, "Better to trip with the feet than with the tongue." Because when your mouth outruns your mind, you hand over your peace before the battle even begins. But when you go still, when you breathe, when you resist the reflex to react, you shift the entire dynamic. They expect you to explain, to justify, to chase clarity on their terms, but instead, you pause. You say nothing. You let silence do the talking. And that silence, it's not empty. It's heavy. It says, "I see what you're doing. I just don't accept the invitation, because this isn't about punishment or revenge. It's about a sacred pause, a breath between stimulus and response, where you take back your power." Here's how it plays out in real life. They send a manipulative text. You don't rush to reply. You let the urgency die in your pocket. They guilt trip you face to face. You don't scramble to make peace. You let their discomfort sit in the air. And that silence, it becomes a mirror. It forces them to confront the game they're playing. Because silence isn't weakness. It's containment. It's composure. It's control. And in a world addicted to noise, your calm becomes the loudest voice in the room. So let them talk. Let them spiral. Let them exhaust themselves trying to break your stillness. Your job isn't to fight noise with noise. Your job is to remain unmoved. That's not cold. That's not passive. That's stoic. Number 5, the broken record response. Have you noticed manipulators hate consistency? They feed on motion, on your instinct to smooth things over, to reword your boundaries, to negotiate or soften your stance. They'll ask the same question 4 different ways, not because they didn't understand, but because they didn't like your answer. Are you sure? But why can't you just do it this once? You're really going to say no to me? Every rephrased question is bait. Come chase the conversation. Come explain yourself one more time. Come twist your truth until it fits my needs. Here's the Stoic move that shuts it down. Become a broken record. Say it once, clearly, kindly, calmly, and then say it again, exactly the same. You don't escalate. You don't justify. You don't add fuel. You just repeat your truth with unwavering calm. I've already shared how I feel. I've made my decision. That's not something I'm okay with. They'll accuse you of being cold, robotic, dismissive, but that frustration isn't about you. It's about their failure to move you, because manipulation needs motion. It needs your energy to spin. Consistency is the eye of the storm, still, present, unmoved. The Stoics believed in deliberate speech, not endless talking. Here is that quote from Marcus Aurelius again. "If someone can prove me wrong, I will change. But if not, I must remain where reason and virtue place me. If your boundary is born from reason, self-respect, and principle, then let it echo. Let it repeat. Let it become a steady drumbeat in a conversation that's trying to spin in circles. You don't owe new words for boundaries already made clear, so when someone keeps circling back, don't spiral with them. Be the record. Be the rhythm. Be the still point they can't manipulate. Number 6, the power of naming. There's one thing manipulators fear more than silence, more than boundaries, more than being ignored. They fear being seen. Their power lives in ambiguity, in subtlety, in gray areas where motives can hide behind concern, confusion, or just kidding. So when you name the pattern out loud, you burn through the fog, and suddenly they're exposed. Picture this. Someone keeps making jokes at your expense. They mock your goals. They poke at your insecurities. And when you finally flinch, relax. You're too sensitive. Don't be so serious. It's just a joke. Now, you look like the problem, the killjoy, the overreactor. But what happens when you calmly say, your jokes cross into disrespect? And this is one of those times you haven't yelled. You haven't insulted. You haven't played their game. You've named it, and naming it takes away their favorite weapon, plausible deniability. This is Stoicism in action. The Stoics saw clarity as courage, speech as discipline. Epictetus said, "First, tell yourself what you would be. Then do what you have to do. If you want to be unmoved by confusion, then speak clarity into chaos." When someone gaslights you, "That didn't happen. You're making it up." You reply, "That did happen. And I don't need to argue about it." When someone guilt trips you, "Wow, I guess I don't matter to you." You reply, "Are you trying to make me feel guilty for saying no? Because I don't accept manipulation." It might sound confrontational, but it isn't. It's calm, it's clear, it's firm. And yes, these lines might feel awkward on paper, but trust me, once you spot these tactics in real life, a version of these words will pop into your head. And when it does, come back and tell us in the comments. Because the moment you name it, the game changes. They can't claim they were just joking. They can't pretend you misunderstood. They can't twist the story without resistance. Naming is like flipping on a light in a room they've kept dim on purpose. Uncomfortable, yes, but it's the first step toward freedom. So speak the truth, not with anger, not with ego, but with calm, clear strength. You don't need to shout to be heard. You just need to stop pretending you didn't notice. Okay, my stoic friend, we are halfway through, but the best parts are still ahead. Remember at the start when I said I'd try to over-deliver? Well, how am I doing? Let me know below. And before you forget, hit like and subscribe. Number 7, don't over-explain. Explaining something once is respectful. Explaining it twice is patient. But explaining it 3, 4, 5 times, that's not communication, that's control. Because when a manipulator keeps asking, keeps pretending not to understand, they're not seeking clarity, they're testing your resolve. They're hoping that with every extra explanation, doubt creeps in, that you'll soften your boundary, that you'll second-guess your choice, that they can inch you back into their control. This is where the Stoic in you must step forward, not the apologizer, not the peacekeeper, the Stoic, the one who says, "My decision is mine to own, and I don't need to relitigate it just because someone else refuses to accept it." You don't need to explain your boundary multiple times to someone who already heard you. You said no. You said, "I'm not available." You said, "That's not something I'm comfortable with." That's it. That's the whole sentence. In real life, they'll act confused. They'll pretend they need more context. they'll push, but why can't you just come for a little bit? I don't get it. What changed? You're making this a bigger deal than it needs to be. But you don't owe them new answers. You owe yourself the dignity of standing on the ones you've already given. I've already explained where I'm coming from. I hear you're frustrated, but I'm not changing my mind. We've already talked about this. I'm staying firm. That's not rude. That's not inflexible. That's called emotional self-respect. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Be tolerant with others, but strict with yourself." And part of that discipline is knowing when you're done explaining. You can be kind without being compliant, calm without being convincing. So when you feel yourself pulled into the same conversation for the fourth time, pause and remember, over-explaining isn't good communication. It's often proof you're stuck in a manipulation loop. Break it. Don't add words. Don't rephrase. Don't play the reasonable one just to keep the peace. Your peace was already established the moment you spoke your boundary. Number 8, don't take the bait. Manipulators are expert fishermen. They cast lines, carefully worded insults, subtle jabs, passive-aggressive comments. And then they wait. Wait for you to snap. Wait for you to bite. Wait for you to lose your calm so they can say, "Why are you so sensitive?" See? You're defensive. This is exactly what I mean. You always overreact. They provoke. Then they blame you for reacting. It's not an accident. It's strategy. And if you're not careful, you'll waste hours defending yourself against things they never believed in the first place. That's the bait. Stoicism teaches you, don't touch it. Let them cast their hook. But you stay still. You breathe. Marcus Aurelius said, "The best revenge is not to be like your enemy. You don't need to prove them wrong. You don't need to defend your intentions. Because the second you do, the conversation shifts from your boundary to your character, and that's a battle you cannot win." Example, they call you selfish because you won't do what they want. The urge rises. You want to list every time you've been generous, but that's the trap. Now the focus isn't on your boundary, it's on your worth. Instead, you say, "You're allowed to feel that way, but I'm still standing by my decision, period." No defense, no counterattack, no flinch. That's emotional jujitsu. You don't block the punch. You don't throw one back. You step aside and let it collapse under its own weight. Because here's the truth. You don't need to prove your worth to someone who's trying to devalue you. Manipulators run on rhythm. Push, then watch. Push, then wait. But when you stop reacting on cue, the rhythm breaks. And once the rhythm breaks, the manipulation begins to fall apart. So let them provoke. Let them whisper their insults dressed as questions. Let them act confused, concerned, offended. You don't have to match their energy. You don't have to take the bait, because real power is choosing stillness, even when chaos comes knocking. Number 9, observe patterns, not apologies. Manipulators will apologize, sometimes tearfully, sometimes beautifully, sometimes so convincingly you start to wonder if they ever meant to hurt you at all. "I'm sorry, I've just been under stress. I didn't realize how that came across. That wasn't my intention. I'd never want to hurt you." And maybe in that moment, they do feel bad, but Stoicism asks a harder question. Does the apology match the behavior, or is it just a reset button? Here's what manipulators know, and hope you never realize. An apology doesn't have to be true. It just has to work. It just has to soften you, make you question yourself, make you feel guilty for standing firm. And so the cycle spins. Harm, apology, hope, repeat. But Stoicism breaks the loop with brutal clarity. Don't listen to what they say. Watch what they do. Here's the truth, especially if you have a soft heart. A good person can hurt you. A hurting person can love you. But if someone keeps repeating the same harm, no matter how they feel about it, that's not an accident. That's a pattern. And patterns matter more than poetry. You don't owe full forgiveness every time someone whispers, "I'm sorry." You don't have to ignore red flags just because they acknowledge them. In fact, many manipulators use self-awareness as a tactic. They admit everything, yet change nothing. They cry in front of you, then repeat the guilt trip next week. They praise your strength, then test your boundaries right after. So, here's your move. Don't absorb their words. Observe their habits. Are they apologizing for the same thing for the 5th time? Do their actions shift or just their tone? Do their apologies end conversations instead of rebuilding trust? That's what counts. Seneca said, "A good character, once established, does not need to be explained." The truth is in the rhythm, not the reason. In the trail of choices they leave behind, not the tears they shed when caught. So when the apology comes, don't lean in too fast. Don't confuse emotion with maturity. Let time reveal the truth. Let patterns speak louder than promises. Because at the end of the day, you're not judging their heart, you're judging their effect. And if that effect is harm, then no apology, no matter how soft, should be enough to blind you again. Number 10. Know when to exit the game. Sometimes the strongest move isn't the perfect comeback. It isn't the perfect boundary. It isn't mastering every tactic in this video. Sometimes the strongest move is walking away, not as an escape, but as a strategy. Because eventually you'll see the truth. They don't want understanding. They want control. They're not searching for clarity. They're searching for leverage. They don't listen to your words. They study your weaknesses. And no matter how calm you become, how composed you remain, how firm your line, they'll keep finding new angles, new games, new traps. So you have to ask, why am I still playing? Marcus Aurelius wrote, "The best revenge is to be unlike him who performed the injury." Which means sometimes the most stoic act isn't resilience, it's removal. You don't owe anyone a front row seat to your peace, and walking away doesn't always mean leaving the room. Sometimes it's internal, psychological. It's detaching not from compassion, but from illusion. The illusion that if you just explain better, wait longer, love harder, they'll finally change. Manipulators feed on that hope. They use your patience as permission. But what happens when you stop rewarding the game? When you stop justifying, defending, engaging? The game dies. Because manipulation can only survive with access. And once you close that access, mentally, emotionally, physically, they lose. Not because you beat them, but because you refuse to play. Let's be clear, walking away doesn't make you heartless, it makes you clear-sighted. You saw the loop, you saw your exhaustion, and you chose something better, your center, your sanity, your soul. So whether it's a friend, partner, parent, or boss, if the pain keeps repeating, if the games keep cycling, if your peace is always the cost, it might be time to stop strategizing and start exiting. Because the goal isn't just to survive manipulation. The goal is to live in a space where it doesn't exist, and sometimes the strongest boundary is goodbye. Number 11. Rebuild your inner authority. After enough manipulation, you don't just lose trust in them, you start losing trust in yourself. You question your memory, you second-guess your tone. You wonder if you're the one who's too sensitive, too reactive, too difficult. That's not an accident. That's the cost of prolonged exposure to emotional games. They replace your inner compass with theirs, until one day you realize you don't even know where center is anymore. This is why Stoicism isn't just about resisting outer forces. It's about reclaiming inner command. Epictetus said, "No man is free who is not master of himself." That freedom begins when you rebuild your inner authority. When you stop outsourcing your worth to someone else's approval, when you stop waiting for validation before trusting your own perspective. Picture this: you make a choice. Someone close to you disapproves. They question your motives. They hint you're selfish or cold. What do? Do you crumble, or do you consult your own values? Because that's what inner authority means. You measure your actions by your principles, not their reactions. Ask yourself, does this align with who I want to be? Is this decision rooted in virtue or fear? Would my highest self be proud of this boundary? But Stoicism breaks the loop with brutal clarity. Don't listen to what they say. Watch what they do. Here's the truth, especially if you have a soft heart. A good person can hurt you. A hurting person can love you. But if someone keeps repeating the same harm, no matter how they allow about it, that's not an accident. That's a pattern. And patterns matter more than poetry. You don't owe full forgiveness every time someone whispers, "I'm sorry." You don't have to ignore red flags just because they acknowledge them. In fact, many manipulators use self-awareness as a tactic. They admit everything, yet change nothing. They cry in front of you, then repeat the guilt trip next week. They praise your strength, then test your boundaries right after. So, here's your move. Don't absorb their words. Observe their habits. Are they apologizing for the same thing for the 5th time? Do their actions shift or just their tone? Do their apologies end conversations instead of rebuilding trust? That's what counts. Seneca said, "A good character once established does not need to be explained." The truth is in the rhythm, not the reason. In the trail of choices they leave behind, not the tears they shed when caught. So when the apology comes, don't lean in too fast. Don't confuse emotion with maturity. Let time reveal the truth. Let patterns speak louder than promises. Because at the end of the day, you're not judging their heart, you're judging their effect. And if that effect is harm, then no apology, no matter how soft, should be enough to blind you again. Number 10. Know when to exit the game. Sometimes the strongest move isn't the perfect comeback. It isn't the perfect boundary. It isn't mastering every tactic in this video. Sometimes the strongest move is walking away, not as an escape, but as a strategy. Because eventually you'll see the truth. They don't want understanding. They want control. They're not searching for clarity. They're searching for leverage. They don't listen to your words. They study your weaknesses. And no matter how calm you become, how composed you remain, how firm your line, they'll keep finding new angles, new games, new traps. So you have to ask, why am I still playing? Marcus Aurelius wrote, "The best revenge is to be unlike him who performed the injury." Which means sometimes the most stoic act isn't resilience, it's removal. You don't owe anyone a front row seat to your peace, and walking away doesn't always mean leaving the room. Sometimes it's internal, psychological. It's detaching not from compassion, but from illusion. The illusion that if you just explain better, wait longer, love harder, they'll finally change. Manipulators feed on that hope. They use your patience as permission. But what happens when you stop rewarding the game? When you stop justifying, defending, engaging? The game dies. Because manipulation can only survive with access. And once you close that access, mentally, emotionally, physically, they lose. Not because you beat them, but because you refuse to play. Let's be clear, walking away doesn't make you heartless, it makes you clear-sighted. You saw the loop, you saw your exhaustion, and you chose something better, your center, your sanity, your soul. So whether it's a friend, partner, parent, or boss, if the pain keeps repeating, if the games keep cycling, if your peace is always the cost, it might be time to stop strategizing and start exiting. Because the goal isn't just to survive manipulation, the goal is to live in a space where it doesn't exist, and sometimes the strongest boundary is goodbye. Number 11. Rebuild your inner authority. After enough manipulation, you don't just lose trust in them, you start losing trust in yourself. You question your memory, you second-guess your tone. You wonder if you're the one who's too sensitive, too reactive, too difficult. That's not an accident. That's the cost of prolonged exposure to emotional games. They replace your inner compass with theirs. Until one day, you realize you don't even know where center is anymore. This is why Stoicism isn't just about resisting outer forces. It's about reclaiming inner command. Epictetus said, "No man is free who is not master of himself." That freedom begins when you rebuild your inner authority. When you stop outsourcing your worth to someone else's approval, when you stop waiting for validation before trusting your own perspective. Picture this: you make a choice. Someone close to you disapproves. They question your motives. They hint you're selfish or cold. What do? Do you crumble, or do you consult your own values? Because that's what inner authority means. You measure your actions by your principles, not their reactions. Ask yourself, does this align with who I want to be? Is this decision rooted in virtue or fear? Would my highest self be proud of this boundary? If the answer is yes, that's your green light, not their applause. Inner authority is quiet strength. It doesn't argue, it doesn't beg, it doesn't perform, it simply knows. And when you know yourself deeply, calmly, honestly, you become unshakable. Here's the truth. You're not crazy, you're not selfish, you're not too much. You've just spent too long believing people who benefit from you, not knowing who you are. So rebuild, one value at a time, one breath at a time, one unshakable truth at a time. Because once your inner authority is intact, you stop asking for permission. You stop explaining what needs no explanation. You stop falling for games dressed up as love. You become the person who walks into a room and doesn't need to say a word, because your calm says everything. Number 12. Let your absence speak. You've tried boundaries. You've tried calm. You've spoken your truth with clarity and composure. But they still twist. They still downplay. They still weaponize your strength against you. So what do you do when presence only fuels the fire? You disappear, not to run, not to punish, but to reclaim your power through silence, space, and distance. Seneca said, "He is most powerful who has power over himself." And sometimes, power means removing your energy from those who only consume it. Because manipulators thrive in your presence. They need your attention. They need your participation. They need access to the part of you that still hopes they'll change. But when you withdraw, calmly, not bitterly, you take away their favorite toy, control. Absence reveals what your presence was holding together. It exposes the imbalance, and it forces them to sit with the consequences of their behavior without you there to soften the impact. Absence says, "I'm not mad. I'm done. You don't get to hurt me and still have access to me. I don't need revenge. I need distance. Absence is a mirror. It reflects everything back to them. And let's be clear, this isn't ghosting. It isn't vanishing in bitterness. It's intentional disconnection. You stop explaining, you stop engaging, you stop proving, and you start living elsewhere. Because here's the quiet truth. Some people never realize how much you protected the relationship until they feel the emptiness you left behind. And some manipulators? They never will. But that's not your responsibility anymore. Your job isn't to fix what they refuse to see. Your job is to protect the one thing they keep trying to dismantle, your peace. So walk away if you must. Not to create drama, but to create silence so loud it echoes. Let your growth be the boundary. Let your healing be the closure. Let your absence speak the truth you no longer need to repeat. Because when you've truly reclaimed your power, you don't need to prove anything. You just go. And the silence that follows says it all. Before you go, hear me out. If any part of this hit home, if you recognized yourself in these tactics, if someone's face flashed through your mind as we walked through each one, that wasn't just recognition, that was awakening. And it matters, because awareness is the first form of freedom. You can't stop manipulation until you see it. You can't reclaim your peace until you remember it was always yours. If you've made it this far, that's not an accident. That's the Stoic in you waking up. The part of you that's done being played, pushed, and pulled. The part that refuses to trade your power for cheap approval. The part that knows calm is not weakness. Boundaries are not cruelty. And silence. Sometimes silence is the loudest strike you can deliver. And if you're ready to go deeper, to train this mindset like a muscle, to hardwire Stoic clarity into your daily life, then watch our 90-minute Stoic Masterclass. It's packed with timeless strategies from Marcus Aurelius, Seneca, Epictetus, and more tools to make you unshakable. Not just against manipulators, but against anything that tries to knock you off center. The link is below. But whether you click it or not, remember this. You don't need to yell to be heard. You don't need to explain to be respected. You don't need to win every battle to win your peace. And when you master that, no manipulator, no chaos, no storm will ever own you again. Stay unshakable, my friend.